All right, we got more solving rational equations. This time today, it won't be just one fraction on each side, just cross multiplying. A little bit more steps involved. So I'm going to show you 3 examples. That's really all this video is. So pay close attention to the 3. All right, here's the first example right here. What I'm going to get in the habit of doing every time is go ahead when I begin and tell what x cannot equal. And x can never equal whatever makes your denominator 0, which in this case is just 0. So after you do that, and I'm going to look at that when I get finished to make sure that's not one of my answers. So, and you could get 2 answers, by the way, sometimes. So what I'm going to do for all the rest of the whole day today is I'm going to multiply everything, every single term by the LCD. In this case, the LCD is 4x. I'm multiplying that term by 4x, this term by 4x, and that term by 4x. And when you do that, what happens is this. On that first term, the x's will cancel. So what that leaves me with is a 4 times the 5. So I'm going to put 20. On my second term, the 4's would cancel. That leaves me with the 7 times the x, which is 7x. On the right-hand side, I have a negative sign. The x's would cancel, and that leaves a 9 times 4, which is 36. And that whole first step, that's really all I'm teaching you today. Once you get past the first step, it's just regular simple equations. So moving the 20 over, get 7x is negative 56. Divide by 7, you get negative 8. Now look back up here, make sure negative 8 is okay. It is, because it does not make a denominator 0. As long as I did not make a mistake working that out, it's a good answer. You can always plug it back in all the way and check it completely, but as long as you did your steps okay, and it's not one of those extraneous solutions, then you're in good shape. Let's try a couple more. Okay, a little tougher each time. So this time, I'm looking again at what my denominator cannot equal, and it cannot equal 0 or it cannot equal 5. Those are my two, I guess you would say no-nos. They cannot be an answer. So I'm going to find my LCD, which is x. My LCD is going to be x and x minus 5, because those are my 2 factors. So I'm multiplying this side by x minus 5, every single term. This term by x minus 5, and the 3 by x minus 5. But watch what happens when I do that. When I start multiplying those, I'm going to start canceling out. Well, the 1, nothing cancels. There's no fraction. There's nothing on the bottom down here. So I'm multiplying 1 times x times x. So just bring down 1x minus 5. Bring the whole thing down. Minus. The second term, the x minus 5's cancel. That leaves an 8x. So I'm going to put 8x. On the third term, the x's cancel, so these are 3 and an x minus 5, so I'm bringing them both down. Now once you get there, no more fraction. All right, so just do your algebra. So I'm going to distribute on the left-hand side, distribute this x squared minus 5x minus 8x. Distribute the 3 on the right-hand side, 3x minus 15. On the left-hand side, I really have x squared minus 13x. Over here I have 3x minus 15. So because I have an x squared, I need to try to factor, so I'm moving everything over to the left. Negative 13x, if I bring the 3x over, it makes it negative 3x, so it's negative 16x. Also bringing the 15, if I bring a minus 15 over, it gives me a positive 15. And I'm going to factor. Factors of 15 that would give me 16 are 15 and 1. They have to both be negative, because if you multiply the 2 negatives, you get a positive 15, and if you add them, you get a negative 16, which is what I want. So my 2 solutions are 15 and 1, maybe. I'm going to check back up here, make sure they're not 0 and 5. They're not, which means both those answers are good. All right, hopefully not too bad there. The only thing I'm really teaching you is how to get from the first step to the second step, because once you get there, you should be able to solve whatever equation is left. Let's go one more. All right, last one here. This one has one thing different, that has one of your denominators can be factored. So anytime that happens, you need to do that first. I'm not too worried about the numerators, but I'm worried about the denominators, x plus 3, x minus 3. So after I do that, I'm thinking, okay, what can x not equal? Well, x cannot equal positive 3 or negative 3. And I also need my LCD. My LCD is x plus 3, x minus 3. That's what I'm going to multiply every term by. So here I go. I'm going to start with this first term, multiply it times x plus 3, x minus 3. Same thing with the middle term, x plus 3, not much room there, x minus 3. And the last term, x plus 3, x minus 3. Whoa, sorry about that. And let's see what happens. The first term right here, the x minus 3's cancel. That leaves me an x plus 3 times 6. I'm just going to write that down here, a 6 and an x plus 3. On the second term, everything cancels, the whole thing. So it just leaves me an 8x squared. On my last term, or it's a minus sign first of all, the x plus 3's would cancel. I have a 4x and an x minus 3. So there again, there's that first step. I need you to be able to get there, because once you get there, should be good to go. All right, I'm going to distribute the 6 on this side, 6x plus 18. Over here, I'm going to distribute the 4x, which is going to be negative 4x squared plus 12x. Simplify a little bit. The left-hand side I can't do much with, but the right-hand side I have a 8x squared minus 4x squared, which is 4x squared, plus 12x. And because I have an x squared again, I'm going to move everything over to that side so I can factor. So I'm taking the 6x over. When I take the 6x over, I get a plus 6x, because 12x minus 6x. If I move the 18 over, it's just minus 18. And then what I'm going to do now is I'm going to, because all of them are even, and because one side equals 0, I'm basically dividing both sides by 2 to make my number smaller. So I'm going to make that a 2x squared, make that a 3x, and a minus 9. You can always do that when one side of your equation is equal to 0. And once you get there, it's time for slide, divide, slide. So I'm going to slide the 2 over, make that 18, factor what I have now, which would be x plus 6, x minus 3, but after you factor it, it's time to divide. So it's called slide, divide, slide. So I'm going to divide all that by 2, the same number that I slid. All right, and when you do that, 6 over 2 is 3. I'm going to slide the 2, 2x minus 3, and really, I don't really have to do that, but it looks better. I can tell the answer from the slide, divide, slide. But my two solutions would be negative 3 and also 3 halves. But before I circle them or make it official, I need to look way back here where I started, and guess what? X cannot equal 3 or negative 3. So that means that negative 3 is extraneous. 3 halves is okay, so that is the only solution is 3 halves. That's why you must check your answer when you get done. And that's all there is to that. That looks worse than it is. Really, I'm just teaching you the first step. You know how to do everything past that. So tomorrow we'll work on getting that first step really good and getting you through these equations. So I'll see you then.